Okay, so today we're going to make a box plot of a quantitative data set. What we're given here is a number of different heights, probably for people. It's not that important. I just want you to know how to make a box plot using Excel. So we need to find our 5-number summary, which would be these 5 numbers right here, of our data set. So I'm going to say this equals my minimum. Select minimum of my data set, highlight all of the data, and press enter, and it gives us our minimum value. Next, this one is somewhat new. We're going to find the first quartile. So we're going to say this cell here equals, and start to type quartile. You can see quartile EXC. Now one thing is you may have to use a capital Q. If you use lowercase q, sometimes it doesn't work. So using quartile, we're going to again select our data, the heights, and we're going to go back up, and we select our data array. Now we need to figure out which quartile do we want to do. So you hit comma, a 1 because we're looking for the first quartile, enter, and it gives us our first quartile. So next we're going to find the median, which would be the second quartile, but we can also use the median function. So we are going to, just to show you a quick shortcut, and so we don't have to keep selecting all of the data, if you highlight what we want and you rename it, I'm going to name it the height. Now, instead of having to select the data over and over again, I can simply type, I want to find the median of the height, and look, it turns blue because it's selected our data here. So I don't have to highlight it over and over again. Now it gives me the median. Now I can find the third quartile. So I begin to type quartile, and my data, I can highlight it or I can just type height again, comma, I'm looking for the third quartile, so I hit 3. Lastly, we'll find the maximum value. So I come down to maximum of height, turns blue and highlights it for me. But we can also find the median, or the mean, I'm sorry. Again, I guess you have to use the, oh, that's right, it's average. We need to find the average of height, and we can find the standard deviation. So this cell equals ST, standard deviation of the population will be this one here, and we can type height again. So now we didn't have to highlight all of those over and over again. But to make a box plot, all we need is a 5-number summary. Now in Excel, we have to find the differences between each of these here. And that's not going to make sense right now, but it will in a minute. So first thing I want to do is I just want to say this cell is my minimum value. So this cell equals this cell, enter. Next I'm going to find the difference between 163 and 145.5. So I say this cell here equals the first quartile minus the minimum value, enter. Next we're going to do the median minus the first quartile. So this cell here equals the median minus first quartile. Select enter. Now we're going to find the difference between third quartile and the median. And lastly, the difference between the maximum value minus the third quartile. Alright, so we don't need this normally to make a box plot, but in Excel we do. We're going to highlight these differences, and we're going to insert a stacked bar chart sideways. Okay, now this looks like it is of no value to us, but if we switch the row up here, we say switch plot, then it becomes stacked, and we're going to turn this into a box plot. So if I can drag this and make it bigger, here we go. So first thing I need to do is get rid of this blue section. So double click the blue section, go up to your fill options and select no fill, so there's no more blue. Next, do the same thing for the red section. Go to fill, turn the fill off, select OK. Now this middle section here is actually going to be our IQR, the middle 50% of our data. So we're going to leave those two and get rid of this last section here. fill, no fill. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to delete these series because we don't need those either. Now we've got the middle 50% of our data. This is our IQR. We need to insert our whiskers. So if we click on this red section that was there, it's no longer there, but it's highlighted, and we're going to insert what's called error bars, or our whiskers. So if we go to our chart layout, click on error bars and more error bar options, we're going to enter a minus, and you can see it's starting to look like a box plot. Here's our lower whisker. Now the question is, how far do we want this to go? So if this is my first quartile right here, I want this whisker to go to my minimum value, which would be right about here, right, at 145. So I need the distance between here and here. Well, we've already found that, and it's 17.5. So I come over here to my fixed value, and I enter 17.5. It will give me the correct length, and now I can see it goes from my first quartile to my minimum value. Next, we need to do the same thing for our upper whisker. So we click on the third quartile, we go to our error bars and more error bar options. This time we want to do a plus. Okay, but how far do we want to go? We want to go from here to our maximum value of 177. So we're going to say, or I'm sorry, maximum value of 191. So that difference is 13.7. So we're going to take 13.7 and put that in for our 13.75 and for our distance. Select OK, and there we go. We have created our box plot. Now the last thing we can do is, since we're zoomed out so far, we can zoom in if we want to, and maybe change our x-axis from 100 to 200 or something along those lines. So select your chart, and if you go to your axis, we want to mess with the horizontal axis, go to our options, maybe make our minimum value 100, and we can even get closer than that. Let's make it 120, and our maximum value is at 200. And you can mess with this and add more grid lines if you want to see it closer or not. If you want to leave it like that, that's perfectly fine. But now we've got a box plot of the different heights, and we can see our IQR and our upper whisker, lower whisker.